Kunja Bihare. Gopijana Ballava Giribharadhare. Gopijana Ballava Giribharadhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopijana Ballava Giribharadhare. Gopijana Ballava Giribharadhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakcharyas Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to their summer devotees. All glories to their summer devotees. All glories to their summer devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha. And what verse is it now? It's 3, 4. Or 3, 4, and 5. I got 5 on your sheets, I see, okay. All right, so let me read 3 myself. Prajapatir Dagda Shershno, Bhavaja Mukam Shira, Mitrasya Chakshu Shek Sheta, Bhagam Swam Barhisho Bhaga. Lord Shiva continued, since the head of Daksha has already been burned to ashes, he will have the head of a goat. The demigod known as Bhaga will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. Verse 4. Pushatu Yajamanasya Dadbir Jakshatu Pishtabuk Deva Prakrita Sarvanga Yema Uche Shanam Dadu. Translation. The demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples, and if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpea flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of the sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. And actually, I was assuming this was going to be the verse I should give class on. Anyway, okay. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The demigod Pusha became dependent on his disciples for chewing. Otherwise, he was allowed to swallow only dough made of chickpea flour. Thus his punishment continued. He could not use his teeth for eating, since he had laughed at Lord Shiva, deriding him by showing his teeth. In other words, it was not appropriate for him to have teeth, for he had used them against Lord Shiva. And verse 5. Bahubhyam Ashvino, Pushno, Hastabhyam, Krita, Bahava, Bhavanto, Advaryavash, Chanye, Basta, Shmashrur, Brigur, Bhavet, Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno, Hastabhyam Krita Bahava, Bhavantvadaryavas Chanye, Basta Shmashro Brigur Bhavet, Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno, Hastabhyam Krita Bahava, Bhavantvadaryavas Chanye, Basta Shmashro Brigur Bhavet, Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno, Hastabhyam Krita Bahava, Bhavantvadaryavas Chanye, Basta Shmashro Brigur Bhavet. Matajis. Bahubhyam, with two arms, Ashvino, of Ashvini Kumar, Pushna, of Pusha, Hastabhyam, with two hands, Kritabhava, those in need of arms, Bhavanto, they will have to, Advaryava, the priests, cha, and anye, others, bastashmashro, the beard of the goat, brigo, bavet, he may have. Translation: those who've had their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Ashvini Kumar, and those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priests will also have to act in that manner. As for Brigu, he will have the beard from the goat's head. Hare Krishna. Danger. There's danger at every step. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Brigu Muni, a great supporter of Daksha, was awarded the beard of the goat's head, which was substituted for the head of Daksha. It appears from the exchange of Daksha's head that the modern scientific theory that the brain substance is the cause of all intelligent work is not valid. The brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. The real intelligence, mind, and consciousness are part of the particular individual soul. It will be found in the verses ahead that after Daksha's head was replaced by the goat's head, he was as intelligent as he had previously been. He prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is not possible for a goat to do. Therefore, it is definitely concluded that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. The whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. It doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. It is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home, on leaving his present material body. I will read the verse again. Well, actually, I'm going to read the two verses again, 4 and 5. Pushatu yajamanasya dadbir jakshatu pishtabuk deva prakrita sarvanga yema ucheshanam dado. The demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples, and if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpea flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of the sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. And verse 5. Bahubhyam ashvino pushno hastabhyam kritabhava bhavantva daryavaschanye bastashmashrua brigor bhavet. Those who have had their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Ashvini Kumar, and those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priests will also have to act in that manner. As for Bhrigu, he will have the beard from the goat's head. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachachade Shatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yes, so I was under the impression that I should give the class on verse 4 and not, I wasn't told about verse 5, but anyway, the theme is essentially exactly the same. But it's a very interesting point. On one level, we would understand that Lord Shiva, when he is in a merciful mood, an actual Krishna-conscious merciful mood, not just as a demigod giving people, fulfilling their material desires, but when he's really focused in Krishna consciousness and giving blessings to devotees, and giving blessings from his Krishna consciousness, that it would be something like, or maybe the same, as Lord Krishna blessing, Lord Krishna himself blessing or dispensing some whatever he feels needs to be dispensed to people in terms of their situations and what he feels is best for them. So, of course, we don't know exactly. Well, Prabhupada makes no comment along those lines that I've seen, that Shiva's mercy is just like Krishna's mercy. But anyway, as far as Lord Shiva was concerned, he was giving what these different personalities deserved, considering what they had done, the mistakes they had made and offenses they had committed. Daksha got the head of a goat. That's pretty severe. Sometimes if someone commits an offense, then something is then added into their lives in one way or another, which makes them remember their offense and therefore be mindful and careful about not committing that offense again. Daksha, of course, his offense was extreme against Lord Shiva. He attacked him verbally. If he had really felt like attacking him more strongly, he would have had to have physically attacked him practically, something like that. It was extreme. It was really extreme, just so aggressive and extremely belittling, and just, in English sometimes we say that he rubbished him. he just spoke in such ways about this other person that he could hardly have said anything worse. And it was more or less like that with how Daksha spoke about Lord Shiva. It really was extremely offensive and aggressive and insulting, just really insulting. Basically saying he's more or less like the lowest of the low or something along those lines. So that was bad. That really, that was the worst. And as a result, he got the head of a goat. And, a similar or something along the same lines happened to Lord Indra due to his lusty desires, which sort of take him over and possess him, and just he gets totally carried away because of those desires. So he also received something, which he would just never forget. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Yes, eyes all over his body. Of course, we read in Caitanya Bhagavat that when Jagai and Madai were delivered and all the demigods were observing, and they were just completely astonished, just beyond astonished. It was just totally out of this world. How could this have happened to two, people, or whatever you'd call them, like that? And the demigods were dancing and singing and rolling on the ground, and Indra was crying from all of his eyes, all over his body. And he felt, actually, it was mercy that I got all these eyes, because now I'm able to express my feelings appropriately about the deliverance of Jagai and Madai. If I just had two eyes, it just wouldn't be sufficient. So, but yeah, when anybody saw him, they would know. They would know what he had done. And gosh, what an embarrassing way to live. So similarly here, same idea with all of these people, actually. And first of all, Daksha himself, who got the head of a goat. And talk about a reminder and something to remind other people that, he really did something bad. But Lord Shiva feels it's appropriate. And of course, there's some appropriateness there, although it's extremely severe, because even though Prabhupada mentions in the purport of verse 5 that that Daksha, even though he's had the head of a goat, he still acted as intelligently as he had acted before. At least in terms of just doing things. Of course, he was corrected in terms of his offensiveness. But, so he was as intelligent as he had been before in a sort of technical sense, but he had really made a goat of himself. It was just too much. So certainly Lord Shiva feels that this is just appropriate. Then others, it's interesting, different people who had participated in the offenses and then in the yajna, which then took place after the offenses, but still it was done on the basis of the offenses with Lord Shiva excluded. So, which means that as yajnas go, it was not a real yajna. And it wouldn't be a successful yajna without Lord Shiva being there and giving his blessings. So the yajna went on and different people did different things before and during the yajna, and they got different results from Lord Shiva, different blessings or punishments, or with a great personality like Lord Shiva, any punishment is a blessing. Yeah. So therefore, so Pusha, first of all, Pusha had showed his teeth somehow or other while Daksha was insulting Lord Shiva, and by way of sort of appreciating what Daksha was saying, Pusha showed his teeth, smiling that, yes, what you're saying is good, I like it. So during the attack of the followers of Lord Shiva against Daksha and all the followers of Daksha, Pusha specifically got his teeth knocked out because he had shown them while grinning in a very offensive way. So he lost his teeth and he didn't get them back. This is what Lord Shiva felt was appropriate. And he would be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples. And as far as tasting, doesn't really say, but anyway, whatever. Otherwise, if his disciples were elsewhere, he would have to chew, he would have to eat dough made from chickpea flour because he doesn't have any teeth. And when you've got no teeth, you can't chew effectively. I mean, you can sort of do something, but it's just very different from if you've got teeth. So he can eat dough made from chickpea flour. I mean, it would be one thing if the dough was then deep fried to make some nice, murku or something like that, which we're all very fond of when it's offered to the Lord. But just the dough, Hare Krishna, yeah, not so nice. I remember one time in the 70s, when I was based in Bhaktivedanta Manor, someone had cooked the evening, one of the evening offerings, and someone went running off to get the Mahaprasad, and they came running back with this bowl with a sort of semi-liquid in it, and the color of chickpea flour with some turmeric, but it was semi-liquid. And he said, "Here, Mahaprasad," and I managed to grab it. And he gave us some. And, we nibbled on a bit and we realized it's pakora batter, unused pakora batter. You don't eat it. So dough made from anything, you don't eat it. It's got to be, cooked, and then it can be eaten, and it may be very pleasant. But just the dough, gosh. So Pusha, what a situation he's going to be in. And even he can only chew through the teeth of his disciples. So in front of all his disciples, this whole event and his offense will be remembered. That's quite something, isn't it? But then the demigods who they agreed for Lord Shiva to have their share in the sacrifice, although he didn't actually get it, but they said yes, he should have it. But then, of course, Daksha said, no, he's not going to have it. But they agreed. And I was reading the purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on this verse 4, and also Srila Jiva Goswami's purport, and they make the point that actually those demigods in the big attack by the followers of Lord Shiva, some of them got severely injured. Some of them actually lost limbs. That's pretty severe. It's one thing to get a broken arm. It's another thing to lose an arm. Some of them lost arms during the attack. But now by the blessing of Lord Shiva, because despite that, because they had agreed that he could get his share of the sacrifice, then Lord Shiva is saying, because this is Lord Shiva speaking, that they'll completely recover and all their limbs and whatever got damaged will be repaired and restored completely. Otherwise, others who've had their arms cut off, they'll have to work with the arms of the Ashvini Kamars. Those who've lost their hands will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. Pusha going to be in quite a situation. Quite a situation. And Bhrigu will have the beard from the goat's head. And Bhrigu, of course, Bhrigu is big Brahman. He's a big Brahman. He's one of the sons of Lord Shiva. And, he, like in the 10th canto, second to last chapter, where it's established, first of all, that that Vishnu is higher than any of the demigods, then that Krishna is higher than Vishnu. Then Bhrigu, when it comes to Vishnu being higher than the demigods, Bhrigu is the one. He's sort of the hero or whatever, the central person who really manages to establish for everyone, and it's part of Srimad Bhagavatam, that out of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are by far the greatest of all the demigods, even Lord Indra, who's the next one, he's way below them. So he established that, and so he did a very good thing, you could say. But in this situation, he became bewildered. When after Daksha had spoken whatever he spoke, and there was the first attack by some followers of Lord Shiva, then Bhrigu called up some special demigods, the Ribu demigods, to fight against the followers of Lord Shiva. So he really participated in the negativity. So he gets the beard from the same goat's head, a reminder, and it'll remind others that, we must be more careful. We must all be very careful. So it's interesting how in this whole event there are different types or different types or different degrees of blessings, punishments, whatever one might call them, different degrees in terms of severity, the severity of the offenses. And those demigods we mentioned earlier, they were able to fully recover, because even though they were indirectly participating in the offense in the sense that they didn't leave the place. Because when there's blasphemy, particularly blasphemy of a great person, but any blasphemy really, at the very least you must leave the place. You just have to do that. And you can do other stronger things too, but at the very least you must leave the place. And if you have actually already heard some of the blasphemy, there may be other things that you should do. It's recommended to go to the person who was blasphemed and make it clear that you don't agree with the blasphemy and you don't appreciate the blasphemy. You're opposed to it like that. Otherwise, even if you don't actively participate in blaspheming, but you become contaminated, you become implicated just by having heard it. So this is a very important point here, that offenses can happen. Certainly we sincerely, as sincerely as we're capable, hope we never commit any actual aparad, and certainly no serious aparad. The thing is that if one performs some aparad which is serious enough, you can get permanent reactions, permanent and really powerful reactions. This, of course, these different people who got all these different reactions, permanent, at least, permanent for their lifetimes. It reminds us of the Kaliya Damana Leela, where Lord Krishna, anyway, I'm sure you all know the story of Krishna subduing the Kaliya serpent. So Krishna subdued the Kaliya serpent, but the Kaliya serpent became a devotee. He became a devotee. His wives were already very dedicated devotees of Lord Krishna, and he became a devotee. But Krishna banished him from Vrindavan. That he wouldn't let him stay there because his offenses were too severe. He had killed the cowherd boys. Well, he had killed whoever. He had poisoned the Yamuna so badly that whoever drank water from it died. And in that, the pastime itself, the cows or calves die, and the cowherd boys die, because they all drink the contaminated water of the Yamuna. And previously other, like birds and trees, who are all Brijbasis, they had all died. All the trees around the Kaliya Daha lake going back a kilometer or so, all the vegetation had died from the poison of Kaliya. And now the cows or calves and the cowherd boys, of course Krishna revived them immediately. But still, what an offense. It's a very serious offense. Sure, talk about very serious. Yes. So even though Kaliya became a devotee and surrendered completely, in the commentaries on the verses there, it's described that when Krishna danced on his heads, then Kaliya became just so beaten and smashed and incapacitated that he wanted to speak and glorify Krishna and offer prayers and just say that I'm surrendering to you, I'm giving my life to you. But he couldn't speak. He was just too far gone to speak. So in his mind, he just prayed, I'm yours, I'm yours, I'm yours. And Krishna, of course, Krishna's telepathic too. Krishna understood what he was saying, and he accepted him as a devotee. But he wouldn't let him stay in Vrindavan. So, and these examples here show that some people, they've all come, all these people, including Daksha, and as we read, he's going to offer very nice prayers. Prabhupada says he prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Yeah. So Daksha really got the message, but still he had to take the goat's head. And the others also. They all came to submit themselves completely before Lord Shiva, but so many of them had to take these very severe and basically permanent reactions. So we've all committed offenses. We assume we've all committed offenses. And we must do whatever we can to avoid further offenses. But we must, and part of the mindfulness that I must be careful to avoid offenses, part of it must be that if somehow I become bewildered enough and carried away enough to really commit some offense, some really substantial offense, then there could be permanent, extremely powerful, and you could say negative consequences. Therefore, I must do absolutely everything I can to avoid offenses and rather glorify everything to do with Krishna consciousness and everyone in Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada, of course, in the purport here, he makes the point, he is focusing on the point that intelligence is not part of the brain functioning. It's a different functioning. There's the subtle body. Which is essentially the same shape as the gross body, at least at the beginning of your life. You get a gross body according to your consciousness, as Krishna explains in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So you get a gross body, which is essentially the shape of the subtle body. because that's the shape of your consciousness, of your desires and your attachments and all the different features of your conscious being. Of course, then the subtle body during the course of your life, it may change, and usually it changes significantly, although the gross body may not change as much, but then for the next lifetime, there'll be the change of the gross body. So really the intelligence is situated differently from the actual physical organ, the brain. And the brain, elsewhere Srila Prabhupada refers to the brain itself as being something like a gearbox in a car. It's a transmission unit. I mean, actually, technically speaking, in motor car language, the gearbox and so on is called the transmission. And it transmits from the actual source of the energy. It transmits into the body, you could say, of the car. Yes, from the engine, from the driver, into the body of the car. So it's more like that. Of course, if your gearbox gets damaged, those of you who are sort of familiar with motor cars and how they operate, you would know if your gearbox gets damaged, it can't transmit well. It may not transmit at all. So if the brain becomes physically damaged, it may be that the transmission of intelligence is affected, but actually the source of the intelligence is not the organ, the brain itself. So Prabhupada emphasizes this and makes the point, doesn't matter what kind of brain you have, if you simply transfer your consciousness from matter to Krishna, your life becomes successful. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments or questions? Pritu Prabhu, would you bless us with some words of wisdom? We'd love to hear something. No? Okay. Swarup Damodar Prabhu. Anybody? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about doing your own duty. And when we look at the duty of Yamaraj, is generally to mete out the reactions of individuals. But now we see that Lord Shiva is actually doing that, meting out the reactions of these demigods. Maybe you can help elaborate on that, please.
Lord Shiva is higher than Lord Yamaraj. Yeah, he's a lot higher than Lord Yamaraj. I mean, Yamaraj is very high. He's empowered with, Prabhupada mentions elsewhere, the intelligence to understand living entities, the intelligence of the supersoul. But yes, Lord Shiva would know what's appropriate, can know if he wants. It's not that Lord Shiva is always just sort of psychoanalyzing everyone, as Yamaraj is doing. But certainly he's equipped to know. And demigods, just demigods, give blessings. Just demigods, all sorts of demigods. And usually, because they're very intelligent and tuned in people, generally the blessings they give are appropriate. You know, it was mentioned somewhere, I forget where, but anyway, that Lord Shiva is known as Ashutosh. He easily satisfies the material desires of people, and of spiritual desires of devotees. So he does it all very appropriately, because, you know, he's part of that team. People get from him what they deserve, meaning the demigod worshippers, which is also connected with Yamaraj. So it's not really like an unusual thing. Lord Shiva is meting out some punishment or reactions. It's not like an unusual thing. Is that okay? Yeah?
Just another point of appreciation in terms of the example that you gave of the gearbox. I'm also mechanically minded, but we see that the source of intelligence is the soul. We see Sat Chit Ananda. So the intelligence is there, and then we see the intelligence is also in the subtle body, and now we're seeing that the intelligence is also in the gearbox, the mechanical
transmitted.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
So there's a transmission that's going on from the soul to the subtle body to the gross body.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for that.
The intelligence, it's a material element too. We mustn't forget that. It becomes colored, though. It becomes colored by the conditioned state of the karma of the conditioned soul. So particular types of intelligence are there. Hare Krishna. Oh yes, please, Mother Rukmini.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I had one question.
Yes.
It's obvious in this example that the different devotees were very offensive, and it's just that all these reactions seem to carry this idea of humiliation, like the whole world will see what they have done. And I was wondering about the concept of humiliation as a cure for the offensive mentality.
Yeah, humiliation, a reaction.
As a cure for the offensive mentality.
As a cure for what?
For the offensive mentality.
Oh, for the offensive mentality, sure. And so it's a comment, yeah?
No, just, would it work? I mean, does it work? Is it the only way? I guess that's my question. Is it the only way?
It doesn't have to be the only way. I mean, Krishna is an extremely creative thinker about, getting things done. But sometimes, certainly sometimes, yeah, a devotee's put in, a devotee deviates, and it catches up with them. They're found out, and then some action is taken, and, for example, if someone's a brahmachari, for example, and they fall down into something to do with illicit sex life, then they wear white. So, you could say there's an element of humiliation in it. I knew one devotee when I was in the 70s, he was from South America, and he had been a brahmachari and a sannyas candidate. But then, life being what it sometimes is, he decided to get married, and he got married, and he came to England with his wife. But he still had some part of his attachment to the things to do with being a brahmachari. So he would wear a saffron kurta and a white dhoti. And it was a bit funny. And he himself said, yeah, I know it's a bit funny. But he did that for a while. So, but to just respond to your point, it's not the only thing, but sometimes it's part of the program to break the false ego. To break the false ego. I've told the story a number of times of one devotee who's, I don't know what sort of standing he's in now, but he was in bad standing for quite some time, but he was assisting Prabhupada for some period of time. And Prabhupada every day would chastise him. Every day, without fail, Prabhupada would chastise him for something. And he told me this personally in 1978, so, it was really quite fresh in his mind. He told me that sometimes Prabhupada would chastise him for something which he didn't do. Someone else had done. Yeah. So, after a while he decided to tell Prabhupada that, on one of those occasions, that actually it wasn't me, it was Ravindra Swarup. So he did. It happened. And he said to Srila Prabhupada, actually, Srila Prabhupada, it wasn't me who did that, it was someone else. And Prabhupada said, I know. I'm just trying to break your false ego. That's what he told me. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.